But little has changed in the Spartan lifestyle of Soviet, now Russian soldiers. I was reminded of basic training when viewing the bay where a company of Russian soldiers lived. Rows of perfectly made beds. The orderly was stiffly at attention, as if he were standing guard at the Kremlin. There are no personal belongings evident, no radios or TVs. A Russian soldier can entertain himself with a BMP-1 gun sight and firing simulator, which of course sharpens his military skills at the same time. In the same room, weights and parallel bars. I asked our guide if they have to pump iron after work. No, he said, but it is a good idea. It soon became apparent why lifting weights is a good idea. After wake up at 6, the soldiers of the Russian Berlin Brigade work out by the numbers for 30 to 50 minutes every day, 6 days a week. And it's obvious they've been getting a lot of practice. The typical day for these soldiers also involves time in the classroom, sports, and training in the field. They get paid 25 to 80 German marks a month, depending on their job. They stay in the barracks, no passes for downtown. Alcohol is prohibited, and it's lights out at 10 p.m. Under those conditions, it's little wonder they're in such good shape. For the Russian Army at Karlshorst, Berlin, Gary Bautell, AFN News.
As U.S. troops continue to withdraw, a number of cities in Germany suddenly have a large amount of land on their hands. And some cities are still uncertain what to do with that land. But as Milt Fitzwater reports, the city of Frankfurt is pretty much ahead of the game.
At one time, the Hamburger Landstrasse in Frankfurt was the site of various U.S. military vehicles. Drake Kaserne was on the left, and across the street, Edwards. Now they both belong to the German federal government. But the city of Frankfurt has made its own plans for the former U.S. casernes.
We want to have a big housing area there, and I think it's possible to have a future of 1,500 additional apartments in that area, school and children playgrounds.
The city of Frankfurt wants to sell the land in parcels to developers who will then build according to the plans established by the city.
We made a competition, an architectural competition, to find the best plan. And now we are in the situation that we will try to come through with our plan, especially with our government agencies.
The question now is, will the German federal government go along with the Frankfurt plan, which is something totally new for Germany? Milt Fitzwater, AFN News.
And that's your Wednesday morning news. Stay tuned now for your dollar rates and weather forecast. Have a good day. Department of Defense facilities worldwide. During a visit to RAF Lakenheath in the United Kingdom, the Secretary said the decisions are necessary to reduce the high cost of defense. Air Force Sgt Jim Frost has more.
During his trip to RAF Lakenheath, Defense Secretary Cheney said the United States and its allies can now afford to reduce their defense spending. The Secretary said the decision was prompted by the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. Following a ceremony to honor 3 American airmen for heroism during the war with Iraq, the Secretary said reducing the budget means reductions in the worldwide U.S. defense structure at some 800 locations.
We haven't singled anybody out here. I wish it weren't necessary. Certainly it does have a negative economic impact on the communities affected. I wish there were a way to avoid it, but I don't know any way to cut the budget other than to cut the budget, and that means we end up closing bases and shutting down units, and that clearly will have an impact.
Captain Thomas Tofani was one of 3 American airmen honored by Secretary Cheney during his Lakenheath visit.
A primary one is the reduced number of soldiers. Approximately 6,500 troops will deploy from the states this year, down from over 20,000 in past Reforgers. U.S. soldiers arriving in Cologne, Germany for Reforger 92 were greeted by the Supreme Allied Commander Europe General John Shalikashvili. He said, though some may doubt the need for Reforger, it's probably more important now than ever.
I think what Europe looked for today is a sense of stability and normalcy among all of the uncertainty and conflict that's ongoing. So I could not think of a better time to demonstrate our continued solidarity and resolve through such exercise as today.
The soldiers were somewhat exhausted after the long flight, but also excited about their role in the exercise. Staff Sergeant Bobby Jack McGuire, with the Florida National Guard, first joined the Army in 1949 and fought in the Korean War. He says he's looking forward to Reforger.
Definitely, definitely.
Why?
Well, for the simple reason that this is our capstone, and if we had to do combat in this area to protect the European theater, it behooves you to know the terrain that you're in, so to speak, that you're not in the other fellow's backyard. You kind of know his backyard as well as your own.
This group of nearly 300 soldiers is just a small part of the total number of soldiers deploying into Europe for this year's Reforger 92.
Troops are also arriving in Brussels, Belgium, and in Luxembourg. In Cologne, Germany, with the U.S. Army Europe Public Affairs Office, Joe Garvey reporting.
The United
Command Center. It's been scrubbed clean of secret material for our visit, but still very much in operation.
ETCC, Lieutenant Colonel Tomlinson.
Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Barry Tomlinson and an NCO are on duty this hour, one of 5 command directors that man a desk round the clock in rotating shifts. With a battery of phones and computers, he can reach out and touch EUCOM, a world stretching 7,000 miles from northern Norway to the southern tip of Africa and full of trouble spots.
You've seen the CNN saying, this is the newsroom, this is the heart, this is where all the action is. Well, this is the ETCC, this is the heart, this is where all the action is when we have ongoing operations.
During our visit, the hub is tracking events as varied as a naval operation, a troop deployment, or an airlift to a global hotspot.
We have the connectivity. We are able to talk to them and say, give us an update on those flights into Sarajevo. Where do we stand? Are we having any problems? And we can follow those flights moment to moment.
And be ready with answers when senior commanders call.
General McCarthy desired a single focal point for actions occurring within the headquarters and within the command. Someone who he could touch, reach out and touch and say, I need this information, please find this for me.
Not an action officer himself, the command director contacts specialists in areas such as plans, operations, medical, or legal. When a crisis builds, the specialists, maybe 60 of them, move in to man the computers. During the Gulf War, when a crisis action team was in continuous operation, sometimes more than 100 people packed the room. Interestingly, the command center has only been in full-time operation since April. Before then, it would gear up for a crisis and then disappear. The fact that it's now round the clock tells you something about EUCOM's mission today. Ann Mulligan, AFN News.
As part of Reforger 92, the U.S. Navy ship Algo arrived at the port of Antwerp in Belgium carrying over 400 pieces of equipment for 1st Infantry Division soldiers who are in Europe to participate in Reforger's Certain Caravan. Army Sergeant Dave Larsen reports that the offloading of the equipment went quickly.
At 5:30 in the morning, a good 2 hours before sunrise, contracted Belgian stevedore started to unload the Algo at Del Wadi Dock. Some of the equipment came off this vessel by crane, while most of it could be driven off using the roll-on, roll-off method. Port operations are handled by Military Traffic Management Command, but instead of offloading cargo, soldiers serve a different purpose, according to Sergeant First Class James Palmer.
Most of all the ports that I've been on have been civilian contractors that unloads Worcestershire and supervisors to see that it's done right. My main job is safety and to see that everything is offloaded like it should be.
The Algo is no stranger to Reforger-type exercises. This ship made a record 8 trips to Southwest Asia during Desert Shield. The fact that this is the first and only cargo vessel participating in Reforger 92 in no way detracts from the training benefit, according to Lieutenant General Gus Pagonis, 21st TACOM Commanding General.
If you have to do all the planning, and if you offload one ship, but then if you simulate offloading 500 ships, all the problems that would come out that you need to review and evaluate could occur. So through simulation, you just save thousands and thousands, maybe millions of dollars, and still accomplish a tremendous training base for all your subordinates.
In less than 8 hours, the Algo was emptied, completing this portion of Reforger 92. From Del Wadi Dock in Antwerp, Belgium, Army Sergeant Dave Larsen, AFN News.
The United States and other countries continue to fly food and other supplies into parts of drought-stricken Somalia. The civilians and military working on these humanitarian missions work long hours trying to keep food and supplies headed to where they're needed. For the military people, the only enemy they face in this fight is dealing with the starvation brought on the country's people by the drought and a civil war that continues to rage. Air Force Sergeant Buddy Vickers talked to some of these fighting the battle.
In Mombasa, Kenya, the people assigned to Operation Provide Relief have no doubt their jobs are important. Everyone knows that about 600 miles from here, thousands of starving Somalis could die if the planes don't fly. Most of these troops never see the beneficiaries of their efforts. Only sometimes do the air crews get a glimpse of the situation as they fly over the Somali countryside.
Oh, look at all the people on the road here trekking. Big line. I mean, a lot of them anyway. Carrying food, they're carrying stuff.
When the planes begin arriving at the airfields, timing is important. The engines keep running and the crews stay busy, coordinating the unloading of the cargo and preparing for the flight back to Kenya.
I imagine, fortunately for us, we don't get up close and personal with the people that are too weak to come out to the airfield. It would probably be significantly more emotionally scarring, I imagine, if we did.
The plight of Somalia can be an emotional experience, especially in the villages. The hardest part for most is seeing the children. You know they're suffering, but they still like to play and express curiosity at the strange visitors from the relief planes. Many times they'll ask journalists to take their pictures. Some of those pictures end up in newspaper stories posted on the wall at the Joint Task Force headquarters.
It makes me feel like at least I'm doing something important. I mean, I see these people need help, and I feel good that at least I'm contributing, you know, better than sitting down wishing I contributed.
The faces motivate the entire relief operation. Even after an 18-hour day that covered almost 2,000 miles, many crew members agree the memories of the people getting the help make it all worthwhile. Sergeant Buddy Vickers, Air Force News, in the air over Somalia and Kenya.
One of the benefits of earning the Expert Field Medical Badge is the opportunity to come back the following year as an evaluator. Private First Class Dan Weiler of the 1st AD Public Affairs Office introduces us to a group of soldiers from the 1st Armored Division who have returned to the EFMB testing site to help others achieve the award.
The Expert Field Medic's Badge qualification is a tough, grueling test. The evaluation of these tests is done by people who have earned the right to wear the badge and the responsibility to qualify new candidates. The instructor's job is to train the candidate, evaluate their abilities, and most of all, motivate.
Make it happen, you're moving too slow.
Specialist Teresa Kilgore, who earned the badge just last year, describes what it's like on the other side of the fence.
It's a good experience. You get to see the other side of the issues, how it is to run the lane, what it was like for evaluators to run it. It's been a big change. It's been different to see how it is. It's a lot of work.
Although the treatment may seem a little rough, the evaluators do want the candidates to succeed, and it's all part of the tradition.
When they go down there, I try to teach them, treat them like I was treated. You can't change the tradition, and you're going to be hard on them. Come test day, they know what they're doing. They experience stress when we're yelling at them, get down low crawl. They see a lot of things different, and they perform their task, and that's what we want them to do. Come wartime, we hope they do it.
I treat them as if they were in a combat situation. They have to be prepared. We're not giving away the badge here. You earn it.
For the 1st Armored Division Public Affairs Office, this is PFC Dan Weller.